Well, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar, Forum on Investment and Transformation for Ukraine, FIT Ukraine. My name is Romina Bandura. I'm a senior fellow with the Center for Strategic and International Studies here in Washington, D.C. And I have the great pleasure of moderating this excellent session today, where we're going to be discussing investment opportunities in the manufacturing of construction materials in Ukraine. We have a great lineup of speakers. Before I introduce the speakers and we kick off the session, some housekeeping rules. We have simultaneous interpretation, so there is a button at the bottom where you can click and you'll have the interpretation. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A section, so you can drop your question there. So we're going to begin with a presentation by Mr. Sergiy Tsivkach, who is the CEO and Executive Director of UkraineInvest. UkraineInvest has been ranked as one of the top investment promotion agencies in 23 of the Central and Eastern Europe countries during 2020 and 2022. So Sergiy is going to present for 20 minutes about investment opportunities in Ukraine in this sector. Sergiy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Romina. I'm glad to have our partners today. Thank you for agreeing to moderate this session. This session is very important because we, for the last year, continuously talk about rebuilding of Ukraine. So we have seen a lot of information about damage that was caused to infrastructure of Ukraine, to buildings, to economy as such. But our aim with our series of events, Fit for Ukraine, to explain what kind of investment opportunities there are. And every investment opportunity should be based on analytical approach. So businesses, they should understand what will be required to rebuild Ukraine, what kind of products, and what they can start planning now right away based on this analytical approach. So I will launch my presentation and we will go to analytical assessments of the needs of Ukraine in terms of manufacturing of construction materials. One second, it's...
Yep, we can see it.
Can you see the presentation? I'm just trying to go to next slide.
We just see the first slide, I think.
Not working at the moment. One second. Yeah, it's working now. Okay, so data. As of February 2023, the total amount of direct damage to Ukraine's residential and non-residential building and infrastructure in Ukraine reached $143 billion. The largest share in the total volume of direct losses belongs to residential buildings. 37%, or money equivalent of more than $53 billion, and infrastructure, 25%, which is equivalent to $36 billion. Losses of businesses in terms of assets that were destroyed or damaged amounted to at least $11.3 billion. Below you can see some breakdown. Residential buildings, more than 153,000 of residential buildings were destroyed or damaged. 630 administrative buildings, 426 large and medium enterprises, more than 25,000 kilometers of roads, and 344 bridges. 440,000 square meters of logistical facilities were destroyed in Kyiv region alone. More than 1,200 healthcare facilities and educational facilities were destroyed as well. 915 destroyed, 2,165 damaged. Damage to the housing stock is the largest component of the overall direct damage caused to property and infrastructure in Ukraine. The total area of damaged or destroyed housing objects is 83 million square meters, which is about 8.2% of the total housing stock in Ukraine. There is different type of damage: partial, average, and completely destroyed. Partial damage calculated when there is a 10% or less damage to an object. And we have in Ukraine 18.6 million square meters or 15,000 residential buildings that received partial damage. Average damage between 10 to 40% damage to an object. So we have 35.3 million square meters in this category, or 65.7 thousand residential buildings in equivalent. Completely destroyed, 29.6 million square meters, or in numbers, it's 72.7 thousand of residential buildings. Completely destroyed and significantly damaged buildings amount to 65 million square meters. The number is huge. And that's why we decided to provide you some.
Величезна цифра, і саме тому.
Yes, I'm here in translation, so maybe it should be switched to another channel. So with approximate calculations to rebuild this amount of housing, and we're talking only about completely destroyed and average destroyed buildings, we will need plenty of construction materials. We have used data of partners of this event, Confederation of Builders of Ukraine, in order to assess preliminary, it's a very preliminary assessment, how much of materials in the following 4-5 categories will be required to rebuild Ukraine. So Ukraine will need for residential housing only, completely or moderately destroyed, 3.9 million square meters of glass, at least 5.7 million cubic meters, or 11.9 million tons of concrete, 39.3 million cubic meters of bricks, or 14 billion pieces of bricks, 45 million square meters of roofing tiles. You can see these numbers are very significant, and that creates investment opportunity for manufacturing in Ukraine. We have an online service, DIA, and people, residents of Ukraine, they can submit application when their housing was destroyed. So DIA service already received 299,000 of applications. So, and total area of destroyed housing that will require rebuilding is 21 million square meters. This is confirmed by applications of individuals in Ukraine. What kind of opportunities in terms of investments in Ukraine right now? So I will be going through 4 categories, and you will see what will be needed. We will start with glass. Opportunities for glass production in Ukraine are very significant due to silica sand and quartz reserves. Raw materials for glass production produced in Ukraine per year. We produce 2 million tons of silica sands, and we produce 0.8 million tons of quartz and quartzites for industrial use. Flawed glass, which is made by a special procedure in a casting by casting in a bath of melted iron, was produced in Ukraine only by Lysychansk glass factory, and that factory ceased its activities in 2015. So at the moment we do not have any glass factory in Ukraine, and we rely mainly on imported glass. Before the war, the demand was 32.5 million square meters of float glass per year for all types of construction, not only housing. So therefore, to meet the demand and reconstruction of housing buildings in Ukrainian market will require up to 37 million of square meters of float glass. This is to rebuild and then to continue operation at a lower level that will be needed for Ukrainian development later. A modern manufacturing plant with annual capacity of about 18 million square meters of float glass may require investment around $200 million. Opportunities for cement production. Ukraine has a huge raw material base for cement production. Raw materials for cement production that are produced in Ukraine with some figures per year: sands, 19 million tons, limestone, 14 million tons, limestone not broken or crushed, 7 million tons, gypsum and anhydrite, 1 million tons, kaolin, 2 million tons, chalk, 0.5 million tons. Also, we have semi-finished and finished goods produced in Ukraine in this category, which are ready-mix concrete, 23 million tons, Portland cement, 11 million tons, cement clinker, 7 million tons, prefabricated structural components for building, 4 million tons, building blocks and bricks of cement, 6 million tons, building blocks and bricks of light concrete, 1 million tons, and refractory cements, mortars, and concrete, 0.5 million tons. Ukraine is one of the major cement producers in the Eastern Europe, and we export our product on a quite broad scale. We have big players present in Ukraine, international and Ukrainian, such as CRH, Dickerhoff, and Kovalska. Additionally to domestic consumption, Ukraine exports semi-finished goods, cements, including clinkers, articles of cement, and asbestos cement, as well as refractory cements, and as well raw materials, clays, kyanite, kaolin, natural sands, and all kinds of and limestone as well. We export this to neighboring countries and throughout the region. Overall, Ukrainian companies produced 25 million tons of cement before the war. Export of cement amounted to 1 million tons. Besides domestic production, Ukraine imported cement as well, around 1 million tons a year. So the need for housing buildings reconstruction alone may add demand for at least 11.9 million tons. A modern plant production capacity may exceed 2 million tons of cement per year, and a cement plant may require investment around 150 million tons. Ceramics. We will need plenty of this product in Ukraine, and also we have raw materials that will be used for production of this product. We have kaolin that is extracted in amount of about 2.3 million tons a year, articles 3 million tons, silica 2.7 million tons. Ukraine is the 7th largest producer of the kaolin in the world, and we account to almost 4% of global production of kaolin. Kaolin from some deposits has very high whiteness, low content of iron oxide, calcium and sulfur oxides are practically absent. Such properties make this kaolin of very high quality. We have significant raw material base for ceramic production, as you can see. We produce, extract clays, andesite, kyanite, selemonite exports from Ukraine, and that amounts to 11% of the world exports, which amounts to 5.9 million tons per year. Ukraine has about 3.5% share in the world exports of kaolin, 1 million tons per year. Ukraine produces annually 50 million square meters of ceramic tiles and flags. Reconstruction needs may double the demand for ceramics. Roofing tiles alone might be needed in amount of about 45 million square meters. An average plant may produce about 15 million square meters of ceramic tiles per year. On average, investment in a ceramic factory could be around $50 million. We have big producers also in Ukraine. We have companies like Sergiy from Poland present, Ukrainian company Epicenter, Atom Group, Kerameya, Intercerama, and other players already present in Ukraine. But the room for development is significant as well. BRICS, also a very significant opportunity. Raw materials that are present in Ukraine for this product are the following. So we have fire clay, about 8 million tons a year. Other clays, about 2 million tons. Bricks export from Ukraine. We export refractory bricks, blocks, tiles, and similar refractory ceramic constructional goods. And we export this in amount of 39,000 tons a year. Ceramic building bricks export is about 77,000 tons per year. Bricks production is an essential part of the buildings and materials industry in Ukraine. And we have a long-standing tradition of making this product. Ukraine has abundant natural resources, such as clay, that is used in several manufacturing lines. Brick production in Ukraine in recent years has been oriented mainly towards domestic market. And we produce around 1.5 billion of bricks per year. Reconstruction may increase demand in bricks to up to 14 billion pieces. However, in modern construction, generally used clinker bricks or aerated cement blocks. This will be used in equivalent of the above stated figure. So we will not be needing 14 billion pieces of bricks, but we will need equivalent of that figure in clinker bricks and aerated cement blocks, because only about 10% of modern construction is using bricks. The rest are using clinker bricks and aerated cement blocks. A modern brick manufacturing plant that can produce this product in amount of 120 million pieces in the form of porous blocks and clinker bricks may require investment around at least $100 million. And you can see that demand will be huge. We have developed sector, but investment opportunity is significant for all players that want to come invest in Ukraine and produce these products that will be used for reconstruction of our housing and other buildings. Iron. Ukraine is the 6th largest iron producer. We produce about 7% of global output. Semi-finished goods of iron produced in Ukraine per year. We produce flat semi-finished products, about 10 million tons. Other ingots, primary forms, and long semi-finished products, about 6 million tons. Ingots for seamless tubes, 1 million tons. Forged bars of steel and hot rolled bars, about 0.3 million tons. Prefabricated buildings of iron or steel, 70,000 tons. Iron or steel doors, thresholds for doors, windows and their frames, about 0.4 million pieces per year. The main iron ore reserves of Ukraine are concentrated in Kryvyi Rih. This is Dnipropetrovsk region. Also, significant part of iron ore reserves is located in Kremenchuk, Belozersk, Mariupol, and other districts. Ukraine is one of the largest exporters of pig iron and takes a significant role in world exports, about 22%. Semi-finished products of iron, 9% of the world's exports, and bars and rods of iron, 3.5% of the world's exports. Due to the blocked ports, Ukrainian exports were reoriented to European markets in 2022. So last year, Ukraine exported about 63% of domestic production worth $27.9 billion. That is an increase of more than 4% compared to 2021. We mainly exported to Poland, $6.6 billion, Romania, $3.8 billion, Hungary, $2.2 billion, Germany, $2.2 billion, and other countries, $13 billion. However, due to destroyed manufacturing capacities and occupation of Mariupol, Ukraine in 2022 produced almost 6.3 million tons of steels. This is only a third of production level in 2021. Nevertheless, Metalworking industry has significant potential in Ukraine, and a lot of bars and rods of iron will be needed to rebuild housing in Ukraine and other properties in Ukraine. So investment potential is very significant. We have access to raw materials, we have access to skilled force, we have growing demand, and we have industry that is well developed in Ukraine. It will come back to the same level, not only for housing rebuilding, but for all rebuilding related to bridges, critical infrastructure, hospitals, healthcare, and other facilities. Now, I would like to focus on opportunities for investments into manufacturing. I'm trying to switch my slides and it's not working for some reason. One second. Okay, while I'm loading, I will talk about investment incentives without slides, and then it will load up. So for any investors that want to come to Ukraine, they can use investment incentives that were introduced by government of Ukraine. We have a law called on investment incentives for significant investment projects. If you invest more than $20 million euros in Ukraine, then you can get state support in amount of 30% of investment made. This support may come in soft incentives. So we are talking about corporate income tax relief for up to 5 years. Your new equipment that will be brought to facility can be exempt from paying custom duties. You can receive a relief and avoid paying VAT on imports of equipment as well. And state of Ukraine can support you in providing communication grids for your facility. Sectors that fall under provisions of this law are quite broad: all processing industry, logistics, healthcare, agriculture, tourism, leisure, postal services, and other sectors of economy. They fall under definition of this law. UkraineInvest is responsible for preparation of projects under this law. So any investor can come to us and we will support them and prepare their application that will be submitted to Ministry of Economy. All services of UkraineInvest are free of charge. So investors will get an excellent opportunity and be able to participate in this process. Before the war, we had 28 projects in our pipeline that were planning to use this scheme in order to get state incentives. Only 3 applications were submitted before the war, and unfortunately, due to full-scale invasion of Ukraine, investment projects were put on hold. However, at the moment, we have new 8 projects in our pipeline, in total amount about $1.3 billion. So we invite everyone to use this opportunity and apply for state support. This would increase your IRR and that would decrease your payback period. One more slide is about export opportunities. When you invest in Ukraine, you're not only covering local market, but you will get access to regional markets and markets throughout the world. Ukraine has 19 free trade agreements with 47 countries, including deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU. Ukraine is a member of Pan-Euro-Mediterranean Convention that gives you an opportunity to cooperate with countries that are also members of the convention, produce goods using raw materials from other countries, and then sell them within the region without any custom duties. Ukraine exports are quite large, and they export commonly used building materials for more than $10 billion in 2021 alone, and this could be significantly increased. You can see the distance of products that are produced in Ukraine and shipped throughout the world. So the biggest distance for pig iron products, it's about 6,000 kilometers. And the smallest one is 730 kilometers for cement, including cement clinkers. So you can see export opportunity is significant. And when you're planning to do investment in Ukraine, you're not only covering local market, but you're also covering exports that will be managed and administrated from Ukraine. Also, we have a law on industrial parks, and that law provides you with a number of significant incentives. All residents that will participate in industrial parks can benefit from 10 years corporate income tax relief. They can get full or partial compensation of interest rates on loans for arranging an industrial park or carrying out economic activity within the park. Residents can get non-refundable financing for arranging of industrial park and construction of related infrastructure facilities, as well as operators. Compensation for connecting to engineering grids at the cost of state is possible, provided the budget of Ukraine will have money for these purposes. This is what Ukraine is working on now. Land tax exemption, lower land tax rate, and also VAT exemption for importing of new equipment. Also, companies can be exempt from real estate tax for industrial buildings and exempt from payment on forestry production losses. At the moment in Ukraine, we have 61 industrial parks. Industrial park could start from 10 hectares. It could be as big as 1,000 hectares. On the screen, you can see contacts of UkraineInvest. So we encourage you to get in touch with us if you have any questions about possibilities of doing business in Ukraine. I need to tell you that it is very important to start planning your investment now. A greenfield project could take 2 to 3 years to be implemented. At the same time, planning period could easily take half of that time. And it's not as costly as implementation stage, because you just do planning, you have to choose your land, you have to appoint your teams, and you can do that remotely. You don't have to be in Ukraine all the time. UkraineInvest is your reliable partner, as well as other state institutions responsible for investment attraction to Ukraine. So we can do this remotely. This is all free of charge for you. And today you will see presentations from companies that already using this opportunity and planning significant investment projects in Ukraine in the sector of manufacturing of construction materials. To sum up, so yes, indeed, we have strong support from international financial organizations, IFC and the others. Export credit agencies are ready to consider investments to Ukraine. Thank you to KUKE and all other partners like US DFC and other G7 and G20 countries and other partners. You have seen today practical cases of businesses that already planning investment in Ukraine. It will not take 2 to 3 years. It will take maybe 12 to 18 months. But still, it's better to start planning now. So Kingspan, Saint Gobain, Ukrainian companies like Ideal Pour and other players on market already doing that. I need to tell you that we have started preparation of an application for a Ukrainian company to start significant investment project around $50 million in production of construction materials. So this is already in our pipeline. Kingspan already preparing with us this application in due course. And on Monday, we will be announcing project that already completed. And we will do announcement on Monday about company that invested more than $60 million in construction materials. So please follow our news. Any company can get 30% state support if you invest more than 20 million euros. Also, there is a draft law in the Parliament of Ukraine to decrease the threshold to 12 million euros. So that will open even more doors. And one more small announcement, our next event, Fit for Ukraine, will be focused on logistics, and it will be held on the 21st of April. Please follow our news and we will be happy to see you all and additional partners and investors at our event. Ukraine is open for business. Ukraine is open for investments. UkraineInvest and all government is open for cooperation. We want to see you in Ukraine. We welcome you in Ukraine. Thank you very much.